Thank you for enrolling on my course. I imagine that you are here because you would like to speak more clearly, with more confidence, and sound a bit more interesting than perhaps you do now. Perhaps you think you speak too quickly, perhaps too quietly, perhaps you mumble and people are always asking you to repeat what you say. In this course, we are going to cover the technical skills required. I've kept it, I think, quite basic. There are more advanced sounds, more advanced terms that I could have covered, but my main purpose here is to get you speaking and have fun. So I didn't want to get too bogged down with details. So we will cover basic vowel sounds, basic consonant sounds, and how to make each word clearer. Then in the second part of the course, we will cover how to make what you're saying, once you've got it clear, how to make it sound more interesting so that people don't think that you are a boring speaker or that they find you really hard to listen to. We want you to become, well, I say we, I want you to become a speaker where people want to listen, where they really enjoy what you say, really understand it, where they get your enthusiasm. When you stop, they're thinking, oh, that's a shame, I was really enjoying that. That's what we want. You want your listener to engage with you. That means you have to make their job easy so they can just sit back and listen. And we want you to enjoy speaking, enjoy the sounds, enjoy talking about what you know about. You're the expert, and if people can't understand you, if you're too quiet, too fast, too mumbly, I'm not sure that's a word, then people will never know how good you are. They will never know that deep inside you're really enthusiastic about your topic. You're very knowledgeable. But if the basic communication skills are missing, they will never know that. So this course, hopefully, will improve all of that. And if you get to the end and you think, oh yes, I've learnt 2 or 3 really important things that will help me, then it will have been worth me making this and it will have been worth you listening to it. Okay, let's get on with speaking. I have been teaching since 1994 and I usually teach people face to face. I go to their homes or they come to my home and they have half an hour or an hour's lesson with me. And I teach them basically what I am going to teach you during this course. It's almost identical. People come to me for all sorts of different reasons, but the first lesson is basically always the same. I have learnt, looking at statistics, that most people, when they do an online course, start it full of enthusiasm, but they don't always get to the end. If you had a lesson with me face to face, you would have to sit there till the end and hopefully it wouldn't be a punishment. You would enjoy it. But I know people are busy and they watch the first part of a course and they think, oh, well, I'll come back and I'll finish that off later. So before we start this course properly, I am going to discuss a few little things that really irritate me. Working on the basis you're not going to get to the end necessarily. You may find that you learn as much as you need before you get to the end. So I'm just going to put these few little things right at the very beginning that really irritate me, as I say. One of them is sunglasses. If you wear sunglasses, that's fine. They protect your eyes from the sun, and that's brilliant. We shouldn't damage our eyes. And if somebody's walking past you in the street and they've got sunglasses on and they say hi, that's fine. But if you have sunglasses on and you want to have a conversation with somebody, please take them off. If I'm talking to somebody and they have sunglasses on, I don't know if they're looking at me, if they're fed up, if they're sharing what they're saying with me or somebody else, or are they looking, I don't know what they're doing. I need to be able to see their eyes, all right? Communication, please. If you wear sunglasses, if you want to have a serious conversation with somebody, or even just a quick friendly word, please take them off for a few seconds. Your eyes won't hurt that much. So that's the first thing that annoys me. The next couple of lectures are very, very quick, but if you can remember these things and put them right, it will improve your overall speech so much. So listen to those if nothing else, please. A pet hate of mine. The word something. Quite simple, you would think. Something. I would guess that everybody that's listening to this lecture could write the word something. SOMETHING. But I have been teaching since 1994, and I have come across more people than I should have done who cannot say the word something. They may say something. There is no such word. They may say something. Again, no such word. They may say something. No such word, okay? It's a th, not a f. It's an ing, not an ink. Something. It is not something, something, or something. Something. Easy, surely. The word our, O-U-R. Our house, our garden, our dog, our chair. It is not our dog, our chair, our garden. Our is a totally different word, A-R-E. It is not O-U-R. Our. It's a vowel sound. Your mouth needs to change shape. It is said exactly the same as our, H-O-U-R, when we're talking about the time. Come back in an hour's time. You wouldn't say come back in an hour's time, okay? Our house, our children. It is not our. Please say it correctly. Articulation. The dictionary definition of articulation is the art of speaking. And in order to speak clearly, we need to be able to use all the muscles around our mouth and our jaw. Now, the clearer we can speak and the better our articulation is, the easier it is for people to listen to us. There are 3 reasons for this. Firstly, if we can use the muscles effectively, then it actually makes the physical process of speaking more easy. It's the same as any sport you may do. If you use your muscles and you exercise your muscles, then the activity becomes easier. And speaking is no different. If you can use your tongue quickly and efficiently, the sounds are clearer and less effort for you. Now, if your speech is clearer because you use your muscles well, then it is easier to listen to. People don't have to try and decipher what it is you're saying. You will be saying the sounds clearly and crisply. The third reason this is good is because if you are able to speak clearly and you know that you speak clearly, then you as the speaker don't have to worry about it. You know that you are clear, so you just have to think about what it is you are saying, and you don't have to stop and think about how you are saying it. Now, this doesn't mean that we want over-articulation. Somebody who tries to speak too clearly can be just as annoying and difficult, or even more annoying and difficult to listen to. Somebody who, instead of saying the cat sat on the mat, says the cat sat on the mat is unnatural, difficult to listen to. They would lose any fluency they would need. But on the other hand, bad articulation is also irritating to listen to. If somebody misses off the ends of the words, so instead of saying the cat sat on the mat, they say the cat sat on the mat. Or instead of saying walking, they say walking. That is just as irritating. A lot of people think that is caused by sheer laziness, and in some cases it may be. But that could be a bit of a mean description, because when I've corrected people, when I've had people read things out to me and I've said that I couldn't hear the ends of the words, I didn't hear any t's and does, they are amazed. They haven't done it on purpose. They aren't lazy. They just really didn't realise. They didn't realise that they were supposed to put the sound there. They didn't realise that you could put the sound there without it sounding over the top. So it is not really laziness, it's just being unaware. We want your speech to sound clear, we want you to be confident, but on top of everything else, it has to sound natural. Organs of speech. In order to create this clear speech, we need to use our organs of speech. And we have 5 main ones. These are our tongue, our lips, our teeth, our hard palate, and our soft palate. Now, out of those, the tongue is the most important. It creates a nice, clear sound, and it can move in and out of our mouth. It can move up and down, and it can move from side to side. So it is very flexible and is used in all sorts of sounds. Our lips can change shape. We can have R, O, E. So your lips also alter the sound, and it's something that a lot of people are frightened to use. They try to speak as though they are training to become a ventriloquist, and they don't like to move their lips. To get nice clear speech, they need to move. They need to change shape. Now, teeth are important. Teeth can't move, but they are used in conjunction with other parts of our mouth. We use them with our tongue to get a th. We also use them with our lips to get f. Teeth are important, and we notice this when we don't have them. Young children who are losing their baby teeth often find it difficult to speak clearly when their teeth are missing. And older people who may have found that their teeth didn't reach the ripe old age that they did will also find that their speech alters if they have some teeth missing. So teeth are important. Now, the hard palate and the soft palate. That is the roof of our mouth. The hard palate is the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth. Very important, and it is used in conjunction with the tongue to make t, d, n and l. And those sounds are very important, as we will find out later. Now, your soft palate is right at the back. It's almost like in your throat. And you use that for making k or k. So the sound comes from right back here. And again, a very important sound. And we will cover these sounds separately. So we have 5 main organs of speech, and they all need to be used correctly to get nice, clear speech. In order to learn how to speak clearly, you need to practice, and you need to practice out loud. There is absolutely no point in reading all of this information, reading through the exercises, and then just doing it in your head as though you were reading to yourself. It would be a bit like trying to learn to swim without getting in the water, or learning to dance without actually getting up and trying it. The only way to improve is to actually do it and to say these things out loud. You need to move your mouth. You may feel stupid. It doesn't matter. Some of these exercises will be overemphasized in order to get you to get used to moving your mouth. If I want you to be able to open your mouth this wide when you're speaking, we may need to practice with it open that wide, so that when you're not thinking about it, you will still open it quite wide. So you need to practice over the top. When you are practicing speaking, try to look at an object. Don't speak down because your voice just goes down. Don't mumble. Look at something in front of you and speak to it as though it were a person. So open your mouth, say these things out loud, and remember they are exercises. They are not examples of good conversation. They are not examples of how you would speak at an event. They are purely exercises, and it would be like a footballer learning to dribble a ball around some obstacles, but he would never do that in a football match. But he needs to be able to do it so he can control the ball. And this is the same. You need to be able to open your mouth to make these sounds. But I wouldn't expect you necessarily to do that in everyday conversation. So practice out loud and really go for it. The thing that I correct the most when I am teaching people face to face is the ends of the words, and it's words that end with a t or a d. This really makes a huge difference to how you sound. The t and d are the sounds that can make you sound lazy. They are the sounds which, if they are missing, makes you sound mumbled and hard to understand. Now, the most important t's and d's are at the ends of the words or in the middle of a word. So we have examples: and, not, and little. So the first one, and, a word we all use all of the time. If you were to write the word down, you would always spell it A-N-D. I'm sure you would always put the D on the end. Why wouldn't you? However, when people say it, they miss the D off quite often. So we get an. The same with not. We get not. And with words with T in the middle, we get little instead of little. So these T's and D's, which make a T and D sound, are incredibly important. They are very easy to correct. Your tongue has to touch the top of your mouth. Simple as that. And as long as your tongue does touch the top of your mouth, you are bound to get a quiet T. We don't want to overdo it. If we take a sentence like, I lost my cat, right? T on the end of lost, T on the end of cat. I lost my cat. We don't want, I lost my cat. It doesn't have to be that aggressive. So if your tongue touches the top of your mouth, when you take your tongue away, you will get a quiet T. I lost my cat. You try it, okay? I lost my cat. And be conscious of your tongue touching the roof of your mouth. So once more, I lost my cat. Good. This time we've got a T in the middle of words as well. So I absolutely love chocolate. We don't want I absolutely, right? Lutely. There's a T there. So you try it. I absolutely love chocolate. Please also notice that when I say chocolate, there are 3 syllables. Chocolate. It is not chocolate. The middle syllable is very quick, but it should be there. So I absolutely love chocolate. You try it. Brilliant. Right, let's go for something a bit longer this time. Bread and butter is a tasty addition to fish and chips. We have a D on the end of the word and, so fish and chips. D. But it isn't fish and chips. Bread and butter. And is not the important word, but it needs to be said correctly. But you can still say it with no stress and still put the D on the end. Bread and butter. So D on the end of bread, D on the end of and, T in the middle of butter. Bread and butter, not bread and butter. Bread and butter. So just try the first 3 words. Bread and butter. Good. So is a tasty addition to fish and chips. So try the whole sentence. Bread and butter is a tasty addition to fish and chips. Be aware of that D, but don't overdo it. You have a go. Good. So be aware of the T and the D. Remember, if you write it, then say it, please. Okay? T, D. I spend most of my teaching life, and I have done over the last 20 odd years, saying to people, don't forget the T and D. A sound that doesn't appear in a lot of languages is the th sound. And people often have trouble with it. In fact, people who have the th sound in their language often have trouble with it. You need to use your tongue, th, and you use it with your teeth, th. Your tongue has to go between your teeth. It has to come out of your mouth a little way because it is the process of taking it back into your mouth that makes the sound, th, th. So the tongue has to be out before you say the sound. So things like this, that. The tongue has to be there before you make the sound. You just can't start the sound without your tongue being there. So this, that. Then we have it in the middle of words. Brother, another. And I would always suggest to people, if they have trouble, split the word. Brother. Bruh, put your tongue out. Th. Brother. Another. And then we have it on the end of a word. Both. With. Youth. So as you finish the word, both. With. Okay? Both. With. Youth. Your tongue has to be able to move quickly to make this sound. Again, it is an incredibly important sound in English. And if you don't say it properly, you get a very lazy sounding speech. So the can become D. 33 can become 33. So you're substituting the th with a v. So now you have a go at some of these. So we'll just do simple words to start with. So this, that, brother, another, both, with, youth. You have a go. Good. Now I suggest that you practice these words looking in a mirror and make sure you can see the tip of your tongue. Th. For practice, I would suggest sticking your tongue right out. Th. Obviously, in conversation, you are not going to do that. It just needs to see the tip of it. Th. This. So we're going to try an exercise I used to have to do when I was about 10 or 11 years old. This is my finger, this is my thumb. Okay, we've got 3 ths. This. Now, in ordinary conversation, I would just say, this is my finger, this is my thumb. And I'm not thinking about it, but you can see the tip of my tongue. Okay, so practice. This is my finger, this is my thumb. Try it. This is my finger, this is my thumb. Brilliant. Let's try another one. The weather on my birthday is often very thundery. Okay, try it. The weather on my birthday is often very thundery. So we've got ths all over the place there. Another one. Both of my brothers are singing with me this afternoon. So again, ths at the end, ths in the middle, ths at the beginning. Every single time your tongue needs to come out of your mouth. Th. Both of my brothers are singing with me this afternoon. You have a go. Good. While we are talking about the th sound, just a quick mention about the difference between the and the. Both spelt exactly the same way. However, in English, if the next word begins with a vowel, we say the. So it would be the banana, the apple, the chair, the idea. A lot of people do it without thinking. In conversation, they would always say it correctly and they don't know why. But when I get them to read something, they are so busy concentrating on the words that they just see the and say the apple instead of the apple. It just helps with the flow of speech and it is the correct way to do it. So the before a consonant, the before a vowel, both spelt exactly the same way, T-H-E, the, okay? Tongue out of your mouth for all of these th sounds. Vowel sounds are the sounds that I think bring our speech to life. The vowel sounds give words a character, a life of their own. It is also the sound that will affect our accent. In English, we have 5 vowels, A, E, I, O and U. And each one of those makes more than one sound. Remember, it is the sound we are interested in, not the letter name. So the letter A can make 3 sounds. It can be A in cat, it can be R in car, or it can be A in day. So we may have 5 letters, but we have in excess of 20 different sounds. The only thing that alters a vowel sound is the shape of your mouth. Nothing in your mouth touches. You open your mouth and out comes the sound. So ah, e, o, oo. Nothing in my mouth is touching. The only thing that is altering is the shape of my mouth. My lips are moving. So just try a couple of these. So just say ah. Good. Ah. A. O. E. Now in all those sounds your mouth was moving. Your E, ah, O. Sometimes you will notice that you open your mouth and the sound just comes straight out. Ah. Okay, I'll stop my mouth. Ah. Some of the sound, your mouth changes shape. So, I. Okay, my mouth is closing. I. They are made up of two sounds, and if you were to slow it right down, you would get I. 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 Okay, so just try it. I. Good. So these vowel sounds are, as I say, important. I think they make words come alive, and you have to exercise your mouth. You need to open it. It can't change shape if it's not open in the first place. We go back to our ventriloquist. If you don't open your mouth, if you're trying to talk like this all the time, then it's not going to change shape and your speech is not going to be very clear. So we need to open it wide and get all these lovely shapes, and then we can get these lovely sounds. Let's try an exercise with a vowel sound. We're going to take the letter I, and it has two sounds in English. It can be I, as in my, or it could be I, as in sit. We're going to work on the I sound. It's a diphthong, which means it's made up of two sounds, I. You need to open your mouth really wide. I would say, for practice, take your middle three fingers and open your mouth as wide as you can, as though you were yawning. That's how wide for practice. I wouldn't expect you to open your mouth that wide when you are talking normally. Perhaps if you were giving a speech to a huge group of people and you were up on a stage, then you could, and it wouldn't look silly because you're so far away from people that they wouldn't really notice. And the wider you open your mouth, the easier it is for the sound to get out. I mean, that's just common sense. But in ordinary conversation, I would say two fingers. So about that wide. But for practice, please practice with your mouth open as wide as you possibly can. You may even find that your jaw here starts to ache because you are using muscles you haven't used before. So we're going to start with an easy one. High in the pine tree. So high is easy. You just open your mouth and out comes the sound. High, high, okay? High in the pine tree. Pine's a bit more difficult because you start with your mouth closed to get that p. Pine tree. So have a go. Good. Now I hope you opened your mouth really wide. Let's try another one. I tried to buy a kite last night. Now, some of those are easier than others. Right, I, obviously is easy, tried, buy, kite, night. Now some of these are harder because of the consonant sound before the I. So night, you've got to start with a N, night, it's hard. So when you're practicing, make sure you get a really nice I sound, and by doing that, you may find you are distorting the word a bit. Night. I would never say that when I was in public. I would never say night, but I would practice like that, so that when I'm just gabbling away without thinking about it and I want to say the word night, My brain and my mouth work together. Night. It knows it has to open fairly wide. Okay, so I tried to buy a kite last night. You have a go. Good. As with the th sound, I would suggest that when you practice this sound, you look in a mirror. Because quite often I have taught people and I've said, open your mouth really wide as though you were yawning to say hi, and they go, hi. I say, no, really wide. And they'll say, hi. They think they are. So look in the mirror and make sure that you actually are opening your mouth as wide as you possibly can. Let's try another sentence. Smile when you see your child. Okay? Nice eyes. Smile. Make it sound like smile. Smile when you see your child. Now we've got nice eyes. We've also got a bit of a l. Your tongue touching the top of your mouth. Make sure it does. It is possible to say smile without your tongue touching the top of your mouth, and then you get a smile, smile, smile. Okay? Child. So smile when you see your child. You try. Very good. There are two words that people often worry about pronouncing because they can be said two ways. I wouldn't say one is right and I wouldn't say that one was wrong. But I was taught that one sounds better than the other. Either or either. Neither or neither. I was always taught that the I sound is a much fuller sound. It gives more life to a word. So I would always say either or neither. I wouldn't say to anybody that said neither or either that they were wrong. I would point out that there are two ways of saying it and then leave it up to them to choose which one they prefer. So I, lovely, lovely sound in thousands of words. Let's try some different vowel sounds. So O. Nice round mouth, O, okay? O, your mouth is closing as I'm saying, O. So let's try. He gave a groan and then a moan. So we've got groan, moan. He gave a groan and then a moan. You try. This is a sound that a lot of people who have English as an additional language have trouble with. The O's become a bit more like an O. So don't becomes don't. Don't is a word we use all the time. We don't even think about it. So I get people to practice and they are fine, and then we'll have a little conversation in between exercises and they will revert back to don't. Okay, so let's try. Oh dear, oh, my cake is all dough. You try. Oh dear, oh, my cake is all dough. Good. Now try dough, don't. Those O's should be exactly the same. Dough, don't. Try it. Good. Now, if you have an accent, and I love accents, I have nothing against accents at all, but you need to be able to be understood. So if you say don't rather than don't, everybody will know what you mean. There is one word, however, where sometimes there can be confusion. If you say won't and want the same way, I won't can sound like I want. So those are two words where you need to be able to get that O sound if possible. So won't, and then we have want, which is totally different sound, okay? O. Let's try the A, another word where we need to open our mouth and the shape of our mouth changes. A. The lady gave me a plate. So, lady gave plate. The lady gave me a plate. You try it. Good. The A sound can sometimes become confused with the I, so instead of paper, we get piper. Okay, it's in between piper and paper, piper. Day, die. So nice A sound, A. Let your mouth change shape, A. One that can get confused is the I and the E. So sit and seat, fill and feel. And one that really irritates me, I'm afraid, is bin and bean. I've been there. No, you haven't. I've been there. Okay, E. So for the longer E sound, your mouth is like a smile, E. Don't be fooled into thinking that they are the same sound and one is just shorter than the other. They are totally different sounds, okay? So let's just try a couple. I sit in the seat. You try. Brilliant. I have been to empty the bins, okay? I have been to empty the bins. You know, in Britain, we love our baked beans. They're not baked bins, okay? Bean. Another one is oo. In English, we tend to say you, you. Again, our mouth is changing shape. It's very subtle, but it doesn't start off as oo. You. Say new, music. We don't say music, as a lot of European languages would do. Music. We say music, you. So just try, I love the new music room. Try. Good. Now these vowel sounds that are made up of two sounds are called diphthongs, and there are 6 main ones. And they are I, ow, oi, you, o, a. And my mouth is changing shape. Now there's a sentence to remember those. My house joins new roadway. I, ow, oi, you, o, a. So when we make those vowel sounds, our mouth needs to change shape. Don't worry about trying to remember all these technical details. Just open your mouth to get a really nice sound. In the first part of this course, we discussed the technical ways of making the sounds, whether they were consonant sounds that needed t's and d's and th's, or whether they were vowel sounds that needed our mouth open wide, ows, ahs, ohs, and bring the words to life. Now, when I'm speaking, I am trying to get the listener to get pictures in their minds, to get images, to get feelings, to get emotions, okay? I'm trying to make pictures with words. So if I was to say the sentence, my new car is shiny, if I made the word shiny stand out, you would in your mind get that picture. It may not be exactly the same as my picture, but it would be a picture of a shiny car. Mine may be a big, large, red shiny car. Yours might be a little blue shiny car. But my new car is shiny. So I made that word stand out. I could make new stand out. My new car is shiny. Straight away, you are picking out that it is new and it is shiny. And because I've made the important word stand out, you haven't had to think about it too much. Straight away, those words stood out. So I've made it easier for you, the listener, to understand what I've said and to get an image in your mind of what I've said. And to be quite honest, by making those words stand out, I've made it more fun for me in speaking. I've enjoyed making those I sound shiny, okay? New. My new car is shiny. So in this next part of the course, we're going to see what methods we can use to make these words stand out, to make what we say sound interesting and have expression. We could be technically brilliant, but very, very boring. One of the ways we can make what we say sound interesting is the use of inflection. This, put quite simply, is the bending of your voice. See, even then I said voice. My voice went down, voice. If I spoke without using any inflection, my voice would be so monotonous and boring that you would just turn off after 2 or 3 seconds. We use inflection all the time, so it's the most important way. If you are asking a question, then normally your voice goes up. So we would say, how much is that? Da, 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 da. Okay? When you come to the end of a thought, your voice goes down. Then people know you have finished. If you are saying a list of something, perhaps it's your shopping list, you want butter, cakes, bread, bananas and chocolate. So they all go up, apart from the last one, which comes down. So people know I've finished. So we can use it in things like no. You could say no, no, no. So my voice has gone down, up and stayed the same. So inflection is incredibly important, and it's the bending of the voice from one pitch to another. Don't overdo it, otherwise you'll sound like you're trying to sing while you're speaking. But be aware of it, don't be frightened of it, and try not to make it too irritating. Sometimes people will lift their voice up all the time as though everything is a question. So be sensible, listen to people and see what they do. So then just try a few words, say yes, yes, and then yes, and then perhaps yes. So alter that inflection and you'll get a different meaning every time. Stress is important. And I don't mean the sort of stress you get when you're worried about something. That is totally unneeded. And I would do anything I could to avoid that sort of stress. But stress on a word can totally alter the meaning of something. Let's just take the simple sentence, Chloe loves to go shopping. Let's stress the first word, Chloe loves to go shopping. So that implies that it's only Chloe, nobody else, but Chloe loves to go shopping. Okay? Chloe loves to go shopping. I mean, she really loves it. She doesn't hate it. She doesn't just like it. She loves it. Chloe loves to go shopping. Implies she doesn't want to go horse riding. She doesn't like going to restaurants. She doesn't like going dancing, but Chloe loves shopping. So altering the stress on a word in a sentence can alter that sentence. It can alter the meaning. So be very aware of this. If you want to make something stand out, stress the word. Make it stand out. Power and pitch. Power, the volume. We always need to speak loud enough for people to be able to hear us. We don't want them to have to strain trying to hear. At the same time, we don't want to be too loud. We don't want to frighten people. We don't want to sound aggressive. Sometimes you will need to sound quieter. Other times you will want to be louder. So variety is the key here. We want quiet, we want loud, but we also need to say to always be heard easily. Now, pitch. We can be high, we can be low. Little children tend to speak with a higher pitch and older people tend to speak with a lower pitch. If I was to say Father Christmas, most people would think ho, ho, ho. If I was to talk about a little fairy or elf, people would think, oh yes, with little high voice. So altering the pitch of your voice can create images and it creates feelings and emotion. Most people, when they are angry or anxious or excited, raise the pitch of their voice. We can't help it. We get all excited about something. And so if we want to sound serious, try to keep the pitch lower. That gives you more a voice of authority. However, don't stay low all the time on purpose just to sound serious, because that is boring. Even serious topics, even serious people need to sound exciting and interesting sometimes. So you need to alter it. It needs to be high sometimes and sometimes it needs to be low. And if we can get a mix, then our speech will sound interesting. Pace. Most people, at least some of the time, speak too quickly. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. We have all this information in our heads and we want to get it out before we forget it. And we have important bits, and then as we're talking we think of something that we think is more important, so we rush to get to that bit. We need to slow down. We need to give the listener time to take in what we have said. Their brain needs to work it out. They need time to think, oh yes, so slow down, okay? Perhaps easier said than done. And it is probably one of the most common complaints people have. I speak too quickly. People are always asking me to repeat what I say. People can never understand me. My brain goes too quickly. So you need to slow down. The main thing I would say here is, please don't just make the gaps between the words longer. That doesn't work. All you get then is disjointed speech. If I was to make the... So just by making gaps, it makes your speech even harder to understand. You've lost all that fluency. An easier way is to try to make the words longer. And that goes back to how we make our vowel sounds long and how we can get the ends of the words on. So if we're putting all the t's and does, then physically it's taking us longer because our tongue is having to move more, t. So if we make the vowel sounds longer, and let's take the word longer, so instead of saying longer, longer, that longer, I'm talking a fraction of a second, but those little fractions of a second add up and it slows you down. I do speak too quickly, I know that, so when I start something, I almost have to tell my brain, remember, slow down. Make those words longer. Have fun with the sounds. Don't go too fast. At the same time, don't go too slow. I have come across people that just speak slowly and you are sitting there thinking, just get on with it, please. Just get to the end. What are you trying to tell me? So don't be one of those irritating people either, okay? Variety is king, okay? Fast sometimes if you want excitement and anger and, oh, I don't know, anguish. But slow sometimes as well if you want to be more serious, more thoughtful. And we need variety. We always need variety in our speech. Following on from pace and not speaking too quickly, we come to a topic that is very relevant to that, and that is how many syllables are in a word. Take a word like every. Most people say every. It actually has 3 syllables, every. The middle one is really, really quick, every. Different. It isn't different, different. The middle bit is quick. Interest. Not interest, interesting. Extraordinary. It isn't extraordinary, extraordinary. One we've already covered, chocolate. Okay, not chocolate, chocolate. Putting these syllables in and saying the word correctly not only makes you sound better, but it slows you down. Every takes longer to say than every. People won't think that you're mad. They won't even notice in a way. All they will notice is that you speak nicely. That person speaks very well. But if you said to them why, what makes you say that, they wouldn't know. They would just know that it sounds good. They wouldn't be able to pinpoint that it was because you put the syllables in the words. So interest, different, extraordinary, chocolate. So there are lots of them. Make sure you say the words correctly, and that will slow your speech down, make it sound really good, and you'll be much easier to listen to. Pausing is sort of tied up with pace really. It slows you down. It gives you a chance to think about what you're going to say. It gives you a chance to breathe, and it gives your listener a chance to take in what you've said and perhaps think, oh yes, I never thought of that before. Or if you've said something funny, to giggle. So you have to pause, because if they're laughing while you're still talking, they've missed the bit that you're saying now. So pause. We can pause before an important word, so then people anticipate what you are going to say. You can pause after an important word, so they can think, oh yes, never thought of that. Or you can pause before and after an important word, and that really makes it stand out. But pausing is really, really important. We need to pause at the end of a thought. So if you were reading, you would pause when you got to a full stop at the end of a sentence. Don't just carry on. Children do that when they are learning to read, and they just keep going. And then your brain's trying to think, that's a new thought. That doesn't apply to the bit they've just said. Do the same when you're speaking. Stop. It is the sign of confidence if a person has the confidence to stop. Silence is very strong. Don't be frightened of it, okay? So stop, think, and then carry on. See, I've just done a very bad thing there. I went, Try not to fill those spaces with words we don't need, like, oh, like, all right. If you know you have that habit, try to think the word instead. So I should think, when I'm thinking what to say next. I will try to do that in future. So think it, don't be frightened of the silence. Stopping helps your listener. They need that time to take in what it is you are saying. Remember, you may know what you're talking about. You may know what's coming next. The listener has no idea. So every thought, everything you say is new to them, and they need time to take it in. So pause. There are lots of different sorts of pauses, and I've listed them on the resource that you can look at and download. Okay, so pause is important. Use your face. Communicating is about sharing ideas, sharing thoughts. So use your face. It's incredible what it can do. If you're saying something funny, smile. If you're saying something serious, look serious. If you confuse the two, if I start saying something really serious but I'm smiling and laughing, then I'm going to confuse the listener. Am I joking? Am I serious? What am I trying to convey? So use your face. Smile. Use your eyes. Sparkle. Use your eyebrows. Don't just sit there with, just a boring look, being too frightened to use it. Because then, even if you're using expressive speech, you're giving over mixed messages. You may sound excited with your voice, but if you don't use your face at all, then it just comes across as being very dull and people will switch off. So use your face. Try not to use your hands too much. I think I have a tendency to do that, and I know it can be irritating because all people can see is, hands everywhere. That doesn't mean to say you've got to be frightened to move. Don't just sit thinking I mustn't move my face, I mustn't move my body, I mustn't move my hands, I've just got to use my voice. Because communication is more than just your voice. Your voice is important, but you need to be relaxed. I have to confess that when I'm recording these lectures, I often actually sit on my hands because I know I have a habit of doing this, and it's even worse on a video because it looks like they become large, don't they? So I do try to sit on them. So be aware of it. If you know you have something irritating that you do, try to stop it. If you're standing and you are speaking, try not to rock side to side or backwards and forwards. Try to stand fairly still, but as I say, don't be frightened to move. But use your face a lot and your hands a little bit. How to practice. I get asked a lot, what is the best way to practice? Well, obviously it's very hard to do it in conversation because unless you get the person you're talking to stop you and to correct you, and they have to know what they're listening for, then you can't do it. You would lose all sense of what you were saying. If you try to correct yourself as you're speaking, you tend to be too busy thinking about how to say things and you forget what you want to say. So I always say that the best way is to read aloud. Over the years, I have had pupils who disagree with me to start with. Oh no, I don't want to read aloud. I can read aloud quite well. That's not the point. It's to do with getting your brain and your mouth working together. You need a way of breaking those bad habits and creating new habits. And the only way you're going to do that is to speak. And if you are reading, then you can see where the ends of the words are. You can see the t's and the d's and the ings. You can see the vowel sounds. You can see the punctuation. You know where to pause. So it really is the best way to do it. It doesn't have to be a long-winded process. If you're in the kitchen, pick up a packet of biscuits. Read what it says. Mine are in Portuguese because I've moved to Portugal, and tostada. You can read out the ingredients, read the list, making sure you inflect your voice the right way, up and then down. Make one of the ingredients stand out as though it's something really special. So, in the kitchen, a tin of peas or carrots or, I don't know, anything you may have, just pick it up, read it and put it down. Or you may have a leaflet come through the door. Just read it out loud, just not the whole leaflet, just the first bit. themagiccircus.com, featuring the incredible illusions. So featuring the incredible illusions. Go mad with it. Just a couple of sentences. That's all it needs. So that's the way to do it. Then you get used to putting the ends of the words on things. You get used to the sound of your own voice as you hear it, not as other people hear it, which is one reason why I don't recommend particularly recording yourself, because everybody says, oh, I hate the way I sound. Oh, I don't sound like that, do I? You do to other people, but that's not what you hear. You need to be comfortable and confident in what you hear when you speak. And the only way you can do that is to keep speaking out loud, reading out loud, pausing, making important words stand out. In the next lecture, I'm going to read out loud a poem. I know that hardly any of us sit down and read a poem out loud, but it demonstrates how to practice. I'll read it out loud and then I'll go through the different things you can do to make it sound interesting. I will also give you a few tips on how to present things if you do have to give a speech or a talk. So practice out loud all the time. Read whatever you can, a paragraph in a newspaper, a couple of sentences in a book, a poster in a shop window. So read out loud. Let's try the poem next. I'm going to read a poem out loud. It's quite short, and then I will go over how you can practice your speech. Some of these tips will come in useful if you ever have to give a speech or if you have children that have to give a talk at school. So, first things first, the poem. I am reading this. I have cut the piece out and I've stuck it onto a piece of card. This makes it seem a little bit more professional. I'm not just holding a flimsy piece of paper. So I would suggest if you have to give a talk or you have to give a speech, do that. Stick it onto a piece of card. Your card can be posh, it can be glittery, it can be shiny, it can be very professional, or it can just be an old piece of card like this. The next thing I would do personally is I would underline certain bits of it because I want to make eye contact with you even though I'm reading. I don't want to sit here and look down like this all the time. And the people I'm talking to could have walked away for all I know, okay? So I need to look up sometimes. So I would underline just little bits. Oh, trying to find the pen. And I'll just show you. That's how it looks at the moment. So I would underline that bit. I'll underline the end bit. So I've just underlined a few words. I could underline more. But that will remind me to look up. I've tried to pick out important bits. You should always look up on the first few words and the last few words. But it doesn't matter particularly. I've underlined here husband. Now, if I don't look up on husband and I look up on the words after, it doesn't really matter. But it's reminding me to look up. So I'm just going to read it first of all, okay? An old lady remembers. An old lady sits by her new garden fence. She looks at her flowers and thinks it makes sense to plant some more tulips where once was a shed. It was the den of her husband, now sadly dead. She sits and she smiles as she remembers the past, how she and old Albert would sit on the grass. They'd picnic on cakes she'd made to save pence. The money they saved bought the new garden fence. So that's the poem. Right, so how did I do it? First of all, anything that ends with a T or a D, t, d. So we've got old lady sits by her new garden fence. She looks at, all right, t, at her flowers and thinks it makes sense. So you could go through and circle every word without reading it. Just go through and every word that ends with a T or a D, put a circle around it. Okay, that will remind you to make sure you use your tongue. D. We've got old. We've got that L, old. You could say old without the L in it, sorry, without the L in it, old, old. We've got smiles, okay, remember those eyes. She smiles, and we've got the L, smiles as she remembers the past, T on the end. Pause, we've got punctuation. We have commas at the end of some of the lines, so stop. An old lady sits by her new garden fence. Okay, and make those vowel sounds long. New, by her new garden fence, not new garden fence. We don't want an old lady sits by her new garden fence. She looks at the flowers and thinks it makes sense to plant some more tulips where once was a shed. It was the den of her husband, now sadly dead. She sits and she smiles as she remembers the past, how she and old Albert would sit on the grass. They'd picnic on cakes she'd made to save pence. The money they saved bought the new garden fence. Boring, okay? Dull. No meaning, no emotion, no feeling. So she sits and she smiles as she remembers the past. She's remembering. She's thinking about the past. So slow down. It's thoughtful. It's not a rush. So pick something and do all of these things. Put the ends of the words on. That's the most important thing. Pause. Stop when you get to punctuation. And if there isn't any punctuation, just stop where it makes common sense. Make the vowel sounds long. An old lady sits. Okay? She's old. And whilst it's not necessarily true, when we think of old people, we don't think of somebody charging around fast like we would if we were talking about a child. So we slow it down a bit. And the title, you know, an old lady remembers. So we know we're talking about the past. We're talking about thoughtfulness, thinking. So slow down a bit. You know, she sits and she smiles. Smile. They'd picnic on cakes she'd made to save pence. The money they saved bought the new garden fence. So use everything you've learnt. Pitch, pausing, power, pace. Don't go too fast, but don't go too slow. Variety, speed some up, slow some down. So I'll do it once more. And this poem, by the way, is a download, so you can follow me. An old lady remembers. An old lady sits by her new garden fence. She looks at her flowers and thinks it makes sense to plant some more tulips where once was a shed. It was the den of her husband, now sadly dead. She sits and she smiles as she remembers the past, how she and old Albert would sit on the grass. They'd picnic on cakes she'd made to save pence. The money they saved bought the new garden fence. So I'm looking up, I'm not reading down into the ground. So if you have to give a speech any time or a talk, look up. Hold this so that people can see your face, okay? It's all about sharing ideas and communicating, and hopefully that's what this course has taught you. You should now know the basics of clear speech. Right, well, we've come to the end of the course. As I said right at the beginning, this really has been like the first lesson I would give anybody if they were sitting here next to me or opposite me, face to face. I would go over much the same things. The only difference really would be that I would use, I have two pieces that I use always for getting people to speak and read out loud, which I haven't been able to use because of copyright reasons. So I would use something modern, but that's the only difference. I hope you've learnt the basics of clear speech. You need to be heard. You need to be fairly slow. You need to have expression and variety, and you need to have clear articulation, ends of words, long vowel sounds. If you can do all of that, you should sound interesting. We could have gone into a lot more detail with diphthongs and triphthongs and monophthongs, different vowel sounds, how the different consonants are classified, how how to stand, how to breathe. I didn't want to overwhelm you with everything in one go. So hopefully you will take these basic ideas and put them into practice, and then perhaps in the future you'd like to come back and do more advanced things. So enjoy talking, enjoy speaking, have fun with words and sounds. Thank you for getting this far.